session on the introduction to the ARO committees. And today we'll be hearing from spARO. spARO for you all to get to know spARO. So my name is Kathy Sung from NIDCD at the National Institutes of Health, and I'm also the chair of the ARO Educations Committee. Most of you probably received the volunteers needed email that looks like what you see in this PowerPoint slide. And some of you who are considering volunteering for ARO committee may not know their full roles, responsibilities, or commitment, how much commitment it is. And so it's possible that you might not be sure which committee to volunteer for. So last week, we've invited chairs from 5 ARO committees. As you can see here: Council, Diversity and Minority Affairs, Long Range Planning, Program and Membership Committee, to provide information about their roles and responsibilities. And on the right side, you'll see our next week's meeting, which is on March 22nd. We've invited the chairs of additional committees that include Travel Awards, Accessibility and Accommodations, Awards Committee, External Relations, Finance, and Education Committee, which is us. So please join us again to hear from these 6 committees. And for today, and for students, postdocs, medical residents, and fellows in the audience, spARO is also looking for volunteers to serve the committee. spARO organizes and hosts several workshops at ARO Midwinter Meeting and has initiatives outside the Midwinter Meeting. And so today, I'm excited to introduce you to the spARO leadership. So you can see the leadership here, but I'd like to introduce them with their pictures. Dr. Lavinia Sheath from Washington University in St. Louis, who's joining us today, has been the spARO faculty member. Kirpa Suthakar, who was the chair-elect in 2021. Beatrice Mao, or B. Mao, was the chair-elect in 2022. Kevin Booth was the chair-elect in 2023 and is now the exiting chair of 2024. And today I'm really excited to introduce you to Warren Bakay, who is now the chair-elect for 2024. And he's going to be telling us about himself, about spARO, and some of the spARO initiatives that are ongoing. So with that, take it away, Warren.
All right, well, thank you so much, Kathy. So hi, everybody. I'm Warren. Feel free to turn your cameras on, and if you have any questions, feel free to interrupt me. I really want this to be as laid back and as comfortable for everybody as possible. So a little quick blurb about myself. I'm a postdoc at the University of Salamanca. I am a noise exposure, hidden hearing loss kind of person. And I guess the reason that I wanted to be chair and why I've been involved with spARO is that my very first ARO, when I was a baby PhD student, my very first year, and I didn't know anyone. I had switched fields. My undergrad and my master's are both in engineering, and I was terrified. I was absolutely scared, and I had an absolutely amazing time. I had so much fun. I met so much people, and I really want to share that wonderful, welcoming sense of fun that I had with everybody, and try to make it so that everybody can have as much fun at ARO as I do. So that's why I'm here, and why I'm here to encourage you all to volunteer. And I'll give you a little sort of a talk about what spARO is. So spARO is the students, postdocs, and medical residents of ARO. So basically, all of us trainees, whether we're students or we're postdocs, anybody who hasn't started their own lab yet, for the most part. And it's basically our own community where we get to say, hey, these are people that are same level as I am. I'm not going to be afraid of stepping on the toes of some big name professor or anything. If you've got any questions, you're going to meet people here, and we're here to help each other. That's really the sort of the goal of spARO, as far as I'm concerned. Sorry, just moving this. I've got some notes here in front of me. So you might ask yourself, well, how can I volunteer for spARO? What are some of the things that we do here? So I would say we really have two different kinds of members that sit on committee. We have ones that are our liaisons who talk to the ARO committees. Usually we have one or two people that sit on most of the ARO committees. And they report back to us, and we sort of give input from a student and postdoc sort of place. So just to give you an example, I've got a list of the committees. We don't have we don't have members who sit on every committee, I don't think. Like, I can't imagine anybody wanting to sit on finance and investment from spARO, but if somebody wants to, I'm sure that they could. For the list of all the different committees, so last year we had people that were sitting on the education committee, the external relations committee, the newly renamed membership committee, which used to be the international committee, long range planning committee, various different of the ARO committees, which, as Kathy said, that they talked about last week and they're going to talk about next week. And then the other things that we do is we have our own spARO initiatives, the things that we do. As Kathy mentioned, we have a bunch of workshop sort of sessions. They've been historically called mentor sessions, and I am looking to rename them because we have two different sorts of mentoring things, and I find it very confusing. So I think I'm going to start calling them spARO sessions from now on. And for those of you who went to ARO midwinter meeting this year, we had 4 of them in advance of ARO that were done virtually over Zoom. And then we had 3 of them at the conference itself. And these are just sessions that are, interesting topics for students. For instance, careers in industry. Like, say you're, coming to the end of your PhD and you're looking to get into industry. We have a whole session on that, and we had representatives from industry come and basically speak to the students and postdocs and say what sort of things are available to you, how to go about doing these kinds of things. We have a variety of those different kinds of sessions. And we have a whole committee that we have. In fact, I was on it last year. We have a whole committee where we decide what are the sessions we want to run this year, and who we want to invite to basically be our external members to talk to us about these different types of things. So I mentioned we had like careers in industry, but we also had like how to get yourself published. There was a publishing session. There's a session on careers in academia. There's all kinds of different things that we have done in the past. And one of the things is our volunteers are going to discuss this year which sessions we want to run for next year. We'll have some of them virtually in advance again, and then we'll have some of them at the meeting in person, and sort of go from there. And then, so that's like one of the things we do. Another example is we have, we have so some people that are working on our social media platform. So they'll be basically posting on Facebook and Instagram and whatever else. One of the things I'm hoping to do this year is to get us a Mastodon account, because Twitter seems to be falling apart and a lot of people are migrating over to Mastodon. So I figure might as well do it too. And that's just sort of keep everyone up to date with the things that we kind of offer. There's also throughout the year, there are things like our coffee sessions where basically you pop in and there'll be discussions about science, discussions about all kinds of different things to do with our auditory research. And honestly, in a large portion, I think it's there to help us to meet other people in our fields, to get more interested in how we can do collaborations, how some people who might be doing auditory research in something very similar to what I'm doing, but are in a different area. So for me, I am an electrophysiologist. I work in animal models, but I have a lot of friends now through ARO that I've met that are working on, in humans. And we both work on noise exposure, seeing how that affects our hearing. So even though there's people that are doing, very different things to me, like people doing human research, people doing molecular biology, there's a lot of people that are doing things that I'm interested in that are related to what I'm doing. And that's sort of what we try to do here, is build a big community. Right, so the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit is, so JARO is the in-house journal for ARO. So that's where a lot of people will publish their articles. And in the past, we've had it set up where we would have any spARO members who wanted to write, I guess, a summary or a blurb of an article they found very interesting that they wanted to share with our community and share on our social media platforms. They were able to do so. And I believe that the new chair of, so the new editor-in-chief of JARO is very interested in continuing this. So I think Lavinia knows a little bit more about that than I do. If you want to
Sure, I
maybe
can
say
chime
something.
in.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Lavinia, and they call me faculty mentor. I'm basically here just to support the organization, which is really very competently run by the members, but I'm more here also to mediate things between spARO and Council and Parthenon, such as reviving or new initiatives. So with JARO News, we hope to do it correctly, but refresh and revive it with the new editor-in-chief of JARO. Some of the things that we're hoping to do is also, since you would be spending your time writing essentially a perspectives or news and views, depending on what you'd like to call it. We want people to get credit for it so that it would be on PubMed, just additional things to kind of bolster it. I think also part of this initiative is that it will have kind of a journal club component, sort of like what's in J Neuroscience. It's still a work in progress, but stay tuned. It should be pretty exciting.
Yes. All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Lavinia. And yeah, I'm very excited for that to be coming back, because for me, it's one of the most interesting things is, oh, we're talking about the various different bits of science, and we can be engaged with it, and and I love the fact that we're trying to get it set up so that you could maybe get some recognition for it on PubMed and stuff. That's amazing. Because one of the things that I know I, as a student and as a postdoc, are very much afraid of is, have I published enough? Have I published enough? Getting things like this is definitely going to be very helpful. So yay. Hopefully that will, well, I will do my best to try and help that along as well. Right. So I guess I'll just say really quickly sort of what kind of a time commitment we're looking for from our volunteers. I think I was maybe one of the busiest people on council last year, and I would say I put on maybe about 30 hours throughout the course of the whole year worth of work into setting up those sessions. So it's not a huge time commitment. Usually we're going to meet about once every 2 months. We'll meet for an hour and a half, and we'll sort of talk about what the initiatives we've been doing. The people who are liaisons to the ARO committees will report back from those meetings. Those meetings tend to happen, again, roughly once every 2 months, and they usually last like an hour to 2 hours. So it's not a huge amount of time commitment, but it is something where you get to meet various different people in our field, and you'll get to just be involved, and we really want to tailor your volunteering to what you're most interested in. So if you're interested in, say, the membership committee, then we'll try and accommodate that and have you be our liaison for that kind of thing. And yeah, so if anyone has any questions, that's really what I want to be here for, is please ask away. If you're interested in like basically what the different committees do, I can give you a quick brief rundown of those, but again, they're also being covered in the other 2 ARO sessions. If you want to have a little talk about basically anything, I'm here to respond to you. So yeah, please ask away if anyone has any questions.
Great, thanks, Warren. Does anybody have any questions? Well, I guess I'll just start out with a question and just kind of follow up with other questions that are coming in. So Warren, can you actually, I actually wanted to see if you can elaborate on 2 things, which is if you could talk a little bit more about the mentorship program. I know you said that we want to switch the names of the mentorship program to something else, and I completely agree with that, actually. Yeah. But if you can kind of touch base a little bit more on what that is, that'll be really great. The other thing is, can you touch base on what is like what kind of initiatives that are worked on by spARO that is going to be put on during the midwinter meeting versus other initiatives that are outside the midwinter meeting.
Okay. All right. So so we have two different up to this point, and I'm officially changing the name. That's it. So the mentor sessions, I'm now going to officially call it the spARO sessions, I think. We may change the name later, but I'm going to go with that for now. So these are the sessions where we get people to come in and talk about various different topics that we think are important for students. So this is the careers in industry, careers in academia, how to get published, these types of sessions that we put on. And we generally put on these sessions are mostly just around about the midwinter meeting. There's going to be some that are in person, and there's going to be some that are virtual in advance. The other thing is the mentorship program, and this is where we try to basically provide mentors for, I guess, for spARO members. Somebody who is in their field or in the industry that's outside of their specific, I guess, their lab, right? So they can have some
Or their
someone to talk to.
institution, outside their
Yeah,
institution.
yeah. Okay, outside their institution. Where it's somebody that they can basically just talk to about, how to go about, building my career in science and research. And, it's a very useful thing to have. I've been very lucky in that I seem to meet an awful lot of people through spARO that have acted as mentors for me. Lavinia is one. Obviously, some of the previous chairs, like Krupa as well. And just being involved in spARO is a great way to get that kind of that sort of mentorship and guidance. But also we try to provide this mentorship sort of pairing as well, which is one of the things that we run. And the other question, I can't remember. What was it, Kathy?
I think I remember it, is to define the initiatives that are done during the AERO midwinter meeting versus the ones that are done around the meeting or not at the meeting. Is that correct, Kathy?
It is. Thank you. Thank you,
Yeah.
Lydia.
Yeah. So every few months we tend to run something like a coffee session, or there might be especially now that we're sort of talking about sort of reviving the JARO stuff, I would like to see maybe something like a journal club kind of thing, which could easily be rolled into that. But we do run, virtual sessions throughout the year, usually every month or every 2 months. And there'll be things like where we, just get together and have a cup of coffee and talk to each other over Zoom. Sometimes we'll be talking about, very specific things in science. Sometimes we'll just be talking about, how do I deal with the stress of being in my last year of my PhD? There's all kinds of little things that we'll sort of put on throughout the year, and they're always get published on our social media channels. And so those are sort of the two different things. Both of those are run sort of internal to spARO. So we have a lot of leeway with doing whatever we want from that perspective. So one of the things also with this is the education committee, which is run through AERO, and I think Kathy's actually the chair of it this year. And so the education committee is also something through AERO where they do coffee sessions as well, and things like that. So it's about basically keeping the community talking to each other and involved throughout the year, instead of just the once a year at AERO and we all meet each other and we all have a great time. It's something to sort of try and keep that going on throughout the year. It's sort of the goal between those coffee sessions and things like that.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Is there any other questions?
I would like to bring up something.
Absolutely.
So can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yep. Yeah.
So it's a open question to Warren and Lavinia, especially you, because you are faculty mentor here. So I know me, and I'm pretty sure a lot of us, we want to join in academia and stay in academia, right? But then these days, academia is becoming like incredibly challenging, and there are a lot of issues, like especially the money issues, I think is one of the bigger one, and a lot of other issues as well. that we are facing as new upcoming investigator. So as a committee, or a community, ARO or spARO community, can we talk or discuss about this problem and what can we do to help the members of our community to circumvent these problems, or help each other so that we can grow as a community? Because I mean, fighting alone will be harder, but fighting as a community will be a lot better.
Ooh, that's a big question, because this is something facing also people who are faculty. I can't say this isn't a community-wise thing, but on an individual level, one potential initiative, and I don't know if this addresses your question, but in terms of at least some sort of targeted support, and again, I'm not trying to throw out initiatives at us already, but I was talking with Jenny Stone, who now is, kind of at the helm of the AUD, which is where many of us apply for our funding, at least as faculty members. And she thought it may be helpful for new faculty if there was just some sort of a way to essentially have a mentorship process, but it would be very directed towards grant writing and writing something that is an effective grant, and getting feedback on that grant from somebody who has a lot of expertise in reviewing grants. That would require buy-in from other faculty members that have a lot of experience like Jenny does, but it was something that was on her mind. So I can say that as one specific. I guess as a community, we can, as the members here, spARO members who are really at the cusp of looking for their intro faculty job, we can try to brainstorm some sort of, I guess, workshops or support or something that would help facilitate that or give people ideas. I can say, as someone who was, I guess, non-traditional, I really wanted to stay in academia. And when I first started applying for jobs, I really didn't have the publication record that would propel me into a faculty position. So I found something a little different to start out with. And sometimes it's helpful to hear from other people how you can stay in the game if you want to, I guess. I don't know. So it's pretty broad, but if I'm really open to talking about sort of targeted types of support for people that are leveraging out of spARO and into faculty positions.
That's wonderful. I mean, I really like that idea. Since we are talking, you brought up this thing not having enough publications. Since this COVID thing happened, for a lot of us who work with mouse or any other kind of animal model, we suffered a lot for 2-3 years. And we have everything else in our CV, but not have enough publication to show for our productivity. But I guess when our application goes to selection committee, they may or may not consider it. I do not know. I mean, what my point is, there must be a way to deal with this. So, I mean, it will be really wonderful if we can hear from such people who are in a selection committee, or who can give us an idea how we can deal with such issues. It will be really great. And also not only grant writing. I mean, obviously grant writing is a big part, but some of us would also like to be in teaching. So writing a teaching philosophy, if we can have workshop or something along
assistance
those
with
lines.
actually writing up your your
teaching
actual
philosophy, or diversity statement. Those are standard things in an application process. So something along those lines.
Hey, Samana, could I just pop in for a second? Your original point about the kind of issues affecting postdocs, I think one thing that might be useful at the moment, the NIH has a request for information at the moment. They have a advisory committee to the director exploring this specific thing. So it is re-envisioning US postdoctoral research training and career progression within the biomedical research enterprise. There is a request for information, and the URL I'm going to put in the chat right now, they're also hosting listening sessions. So this is a major issue that you rightly pointed out. And I think there are some moves being made in the right direction. So the working group has 2 more listening sessions. So basically what they're doing is the working group just sits in a room, and basically anyone, so they've done, so far they did international fellows, and they did, I think it was like basic remuneration, and they've got another 2 listening sessions. And basically you attend these things, and then you can put your comments into the chat, and they take those comments on, and there's like a good amount of discussion that's going on. So I highly recommend going to that page and putting down what you think, and like disseminating the link with colleagues. I think maybe it would be a good idea for spARO to disseminate it as well for the trainees who are within the United States. This is a way to get, like in the visiting fellow one, the amount of the levels of things that people were talking about, like it wasn't just about like, you know, visas for me are difficult. There was this one individual who mentioned that their university doesn't pay for health insurance for dependents, and that is something you have to have as an international. And so she said, you know, 30% of my already low postdoc wage was going towards ensuring that we were within the correct health insurance. So little things like that, they're looking to hear from. So I'd encourage everyone to put their feedback on that side. But I agree with you. I think that there is also space. I think like as part of education committee, we have had a lot of discussions about what other things we can do for our members. And at least with respect to the grant writing sessions, I think we had to hesitate, because if you're writing this document and then it gets viewed by people before it gets reviewed, then your reviewer pool becomes much, much, much smaller. And so we have been trying to, because the number of reviewers already is quite small within each kind of subspecialty of auditory and vestibular. And so I think like we're trying to come up with a way where we could have something like
go
this
outside of your field.
yeah, have like comments and feedback without necessarily being your grant, because it might actually be a disadvantage to you when you go to put it in. So just 2 things to mention.
But I would encourage people to, if you have specific concerns and ideas, to please write them down and send them to me, Warren, and it can be something that we can consolidate and discuss in our steering committee meetings. Absolutely.
No, absolutely. And also like just sort of as a follow on from that, like that's something that we could easily roll into more of our discussion in some of the spARO sessions that we've run, because we have done grant writing spARO sessions before, but this is something we could tailor a specific one to these specific problems that are, you know, arising because of COVID, right?
Yeah.
So this is something that's easy for us to discuss. So yeah, I would encourage everyone to please volunteer. Just drop us an email, and you know, make yourself heard and come meet us, hang out with us. We're all cool and fun. So
here,
I
I'll
think
put,
go ahead.
there we go. Sorry, I'm just putting down my email. I'll mute myself.
Okay. I just wanted to just kind of add on to for all that. So I think with spARO, I started out with spARO, and I'm still pretty heavily involved in spARO in a way. But I think one of the things that's awesome about spARO is that there's, like, if you have initiatives that you want to pitch, there's always that opportunity to want that you can actually start that initiative. So like as part of I guess if you kind of go back of where the education committee came from, it actually started out with a virtual learning task force in 2019 when we had like gone into COVID and like everybody was kind of missing out on the in-person interactions. And we just thought, oh, like we really want to just kind of trigger up, how are we going to kind of accommodate people's like like interest in wanting to have that interaction with everybody. And that was kind of the initiative of which we came up with this virtual learning task force. And that kind of became the educations committee. And so if anybody like in the audience wants to join spARO and they have a certain initiative that they're willing to contribute to spARO, we're all ears on that. And so we're very open. spARO is very open to accommodating those requests as well. So.
Yeah, and I think Warren touched on this before, but there are multiple different roles within spARO. And so you can choose the level of involvement that you take. And so often what will happen is people will stay on the steering committee for more than 1 year. And in that first year, while you're trying to get the hang of things, you might want to volunteer for something that doesn't have too much of a time commitment. Or if you're kind of like towards the end of your PhD and you don't have a lot of time, but you want to get involved, there are ways that you can kind of have a soft entry and then ramp up the level of commitment. And then when your life and circumstance change, you can just roll off, and it's nice and easy. It is definitely one of those things where the group is just open to people volunteering whatever they have to volunteer. So if you feel a bit like, oh, I don't know how much I can commit, if you're just open about that, I'm sure Warren can help you find something that's a perfect fit for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, even if you just have a little bit of time and just are interested in being involved at all, please, drop us an email. I'm certain I can find something that fits everybody's needs as far as time commitment, as far as what their interests are. So.
Okay.
All right.
Last call for questions.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you,
questions.
Kathy.
Yes.
If you think of anything, please email us. And thank you everyone for coming this morning, afternoon, wherever you are.
Yep. Thank you, Warren. Thank you, Lavinia.
Thanks.
And Kiruba and Tumana for your comments.
Thank you, Kiruba.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, have a great rest of your day. Thank you, everybody, and hope to see some of you volunteer for spARO. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody, for
Bye,
coming.
everybody.
And
Bye. Thank you, guys.